Hey everyone, welcome to Princess of Gay. I'm your host Connie, and today we are here with Glass Onion, a Knives Out mystery. So this is the sequel to the original Knives Out, which we reacted to on the channel. You want attention. And yeah, this is something that was kind of a last minute decision to do today. I knew I wanted to get to it as quickly as possible after it came out onto Netflix and all, but I wasn't necessarily planning on doing it today. It's just it just kind of came up, and it's like, fuck it, let's do it. So what do I know about this? Well, I don't really know much of anything. I think it has to do with like some kind of private island. The cast is a lot more star-studded than the first movie. Like, the first movie had a pretty notable cast, but it's even bigger this time. And obviously Benoit Blanc is back. Daniel Craig is back as him. I think he's the only returning character. I think this is like a completely new mystery, kind of in the vein of like the Hercule Poirot mysteries, like Murder on the Orient Express and the others in that vein. It's probably similar to that. So I don't really know what to expect going into this, but if it's anything like its predecessor at all, I'm probably very much gonna like it. So I believe Dave Bautista's in this. I believe, oh God, what is his name? Edward Norton is in it. I'm trying to remember who else. I want to say Janelle Monáe is in it. It's a pretty big star-studded cast. I do know that. I'm just trying to remember exactly every name. It's just a bit over 2 hours long, so it's a pretty solid ride, which makes sense. And yeah, I'm just hoping to love it. Like, I really love the first one. I'm a big fan of murder mysteries, and especially when they kind of flip the script on some things. And the first movie definitely did that. The first movie, like, really kind of threw you for a loop for how things were done and everything, and you think you know the way it went early on, but then you find out no, it's kind of different, and you're wondering like, oh, this guy's too easy, he can't be the killer. But it's like, oh no, it's literally just exactly what you thought in that regard. But the way things are done are not. And there's even some little last twists in there. It's very twisty, very twisty. But that's a good murder mystery. Having those twists and turns, those different takes than usual. So, like, the title of this doesn't really even tell me much. Like, Glass Onion, what is that supposed to mean? Is that going to be the murder weapon? Is that going to have some other relevance? Is that just going to mean that this movie's going to have a lot of layers? I don't know. It could mean a lot of things. So the title doesn't really, like, tell me anything. Like, I don't even know if, like, that's some kind of, like, phrase or anything. Like, Knives Out is a phrase. Like, that's a term for, like, being at each other's throats and just a bunch of people, like, going at each other, which very much was shown in the first film. So, I don't think, at least I've ever heard of Glass Onion being used as like a term or a phrase or anything. I don't know if that has any like meaning in the same way, but I guess we'll find out. So that all being said, we're just gonna get right into this and hope for the best. So when the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black and it fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the movie. So, with that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So, it's basically just entirely common consensus for most film fans, critics, just viewers in general of movies, that the idea of a sequel is never as good as the original. That the first film just can't be replicated and is something so, especially if it's like a really good movie, it's something so special that the sequels just don't live up to it. And that's been the case for a lot of films. You look at something like The Incredibles. I know comparing this to an animated film, but still. The Incredibles was so well received. And the sequel, not as much. It did some good things, but it just wasn't as good. It had some issues. It just couldn't live up to the hype that the first movie had. And a lot of people say this with various other films and franchises out there. Even if sequels and whatnot are good, they just aren't as good. And it's all subjective. Obviously, there are examples of sequels that people do typically view as better to some degree. And there's some where it's like, oh, some people do, some people don't. But I don't know what most people are going to think of this film, but I can simply share my thoughts. That, in my opinion, this is one of the single best sequels, I think, period, in film. Because it's not that it's not as good as the first film. It doesn't have that sequelitis feel to it. But it's not even just as good as the first one. This movie, Glass Onion, is so much better than the first Knives Out. It's shocking. And the first Knives Out was phenomenal. Like a 10 out of 10 movie. I love that film. I've seen it multiple times. It's shocking how good it is. Has an amazing cast, amazing story, amazing twists, great mystery, keeps you on your toes. It's fantastic. And the ending is so fucking satisfying. This is that. But if Knives Out was a 10 out of 10, this turns the dial up to 11. This is so much actively better. The story, the mystery, everything being laid out ahead of time. To where it's like once you start to really put things together and once the ending comes and everything is being wrapped up, it's like you're realizing everything is connecting. Everything was set up. You look back on it, it's like everything was set up to where you would know exactly how this would end. But you just didn't put everything together because that's how it's set up. It's like the fake mystery, the murder mystery that Benoit Blanc solved instantly. Everything was there. Everything was there. Everything was set up. Everything was perfectly executed and planned to where if you really paid attention to every tiny little detail, you could probably solve this mystery before the halfway point. Maybe that might be a little pushing it, but, you know, you get the idea. You could solve this mystery pretty early on. And figure out where this is going to end. And there would still be twists and turns. The cast, once again, just like the first film, is phenomenal. And it's even kind of more star-studded than the original. And the original had the likes of Jamie Lee Curtis. in it. It's like, that's a huge name. But it's like this cast was even bigger. And there's certain things that it's like you think are going to be important. Like, you think that one dude who's there because he's going through some stuff, it's like, oh, he's got to be important, right? He's not just there for nothing. He was there for nothing. He was just some random little gag. But because this is this kind of mystery, you're automatically thinking in your head, okay, who is he? What is his purpose here? He's here for some reason. Like, even if he just ended up being like some kind of undercover cop, it's like, okay, I could roll with that. But no, he was no one. Just some random dude. But it makes you think that he's someone. So you're following that. You're trying to figure that out the entire time. It's a red herring, completely. And there's so many moments that it's like you think that it's changing things up in one way, but it's doing something else. Like when you think she dies. She's shot and you think she dies. All the evidence of your eyes is telling you she's dead. But then you find out that that was a ruse. That she was shot at, but she survived, and they faked her death. And it's like early on, you're thinking like, oh yeah, Miles has got to be the bad guy here. He's got to be the killer, right? But then it starts to make you think otherwise. It starts to make you suspect everyone else, of course. But then in the end, it's still just him. It's like, in kind of a weird way, it's like the first movie too, because the first movie definitely did that too. In that one, Chris Evans' character was definitely the initial suspect, but then you think, oh no, that's too easy. It just seems too obvious. So you start losing that suspicion and start thinking about everyone else, but then it comes back and no, it's him. It's exactly who you thought. But the way they get to that is so clever and unique and fun. And that's the thing. It's fun. It's fucking fun. Every moment of this movie, I am like at the edge of my seat, just completely enthralled. I am invested in all of this shit that's happening. The characters, absolutely fucking horrible. Just like the first film. You hate their guts. They're scum. They're absolute fucking scum. And that's kind of what makes it entertaining. Because it's like any of them could be the murderer. They all have these motives. They all have these plot points and character specific shit that makes them possible to be the killer. And you think Miles is going to be the one who dies. You start to think about it, Miles is going to be the one who dies, but instead, Dave Bautista's character dies. I can't think of his name right now. And it's like, again, just with the twists and everything. And then you find out Miles is the one who killed him. And it's like, everything is like a million miles a minute in the best way possible. There's so many films out there that feel like they're going so fast that it just, you can't keep up. And it goes for shows and games and everything too. They're going so fast, it's just at such a fast breakneck pace that you can't really keep up. You can't really follow it as easily. But there's some cases where that's so brilliantly written and handled, that it's so well directed, so well just planned out, that the breakneck speed of it all, everything happening so quickly and excitingly, is like necessary for this to work as well as it did. This was so fucking good. Without hesitation, this might be my movie of the year. And mind you, I will fully admit it might be the initial hype talking. It might be recency bias because I just saw it. I am still super fucking hyped over it. I will obviously give it some time to think it through, to calm my shit down, because my heart is racing right now. I am so excited about this movie. I'm going to be going right onto like social media and raving about this. Um, so I'm going to give it some thought though, and I'm going to really probably I'll end up seeing it again and everything. I'm sure some reactors will be putting out reactions to it. Um, I'm going to give it some thought before I really put it into my rankings for the year because I want to be sure exactly where I would put it. Again, I want to let the initial hype die down as well and really give it a proper thought so I can be fair about this. Because if I just put it on my list now, it's going to be number one just from the initial hype. But there's other movies this year that have had the same kind of feeling for me. Maybe not to this exact level, but still. And I want to look at the thoughts here. I definitely want to look at the thoughts, as I tend to do with a lot of movies. So for the critical response, as always, take it with a grain of salt, but on Rotten Tomatoes, 305 critic reviews are positive, 93%, with an average rating of 8 of 10. The website's consensus reads, Glass Onion brings back Benoit Blanc for another wildly entertaining mystery, rounded out by an outstanding ensemble cast. Metacritic, which uses a weighted average, assigned the film a score of 81 out of 100, based on 60 critics, indicating universal acclaim. Variety's Owen Gleiberman praised the film as a bigger, showier, even more elaborately multifaceted shell game mystery than the first film. And yeah, that's definitely the case. But I actually want to see more reviews here, because I want to see like specifics of what people are saying, and that wasn't telling me. So, so let me check here. Okay, yeah, 94 currently on the tomato meter, certified fresh, with a 93% audience score. Give me a second here. It wants me to enable ads on Rotten Tomatoes. It won't let me view it without doing that. I have my ad block normally on. But yeah, so the tomato meter, 94% is based on 309 reviews. The audience score is 500 plus verified ratings. So let's check out some actual like reviews here. I'm not going to go into the full thing, but let's check out like the basic here. So Gary M. Kramer from Salon.com says, Johnson certainly delights in creating puzzling distractions, but even if his film is as deep as a layer of onion skin, it is immensely engaging. Glass Onion gently mocks its characters, which makes it so enjoyable. It definitely satirizes a lot with billionaires and whatnot. But saying it's like not that deep is like, it was, I don't know, pretty deep in its layers and whatnot. That's kind of the point. John Wenzel of the Denver Post says, everyone in Rian Johnson's Glass Onion seems to be having a blast, especially the highly accomplished director. Adam Graham of the Detroit News, hey, there you go, close to home for me, says Craig, shed of his dour James Bond stiffness, is enough to carry Glass Onion over its rough patches, while Norton and Monet dine on the meal Johnson puts in front of them. I think every actor in this just completely owned their roles. If I had to say like one who really shined in this, Janelle Monáe owned this movie. Her performances, both as both sisters, but also as the one sister pretending to be the other, was just fantastic. She held every scene just completely. Rafer Guzman of Newsday says, a bright and bubbly whodunit perfect for holiday season escapism. Wenlei Ma of news.com.au says, Rian Johnson has pulled off the impossible. He's followed up his wildly successful Knives Out with a second installment that is just as fun, just as clever, and just as brilliant. Again, I think it's so much better. Like, actively better than the... And again, I love the first. I think it's better, honestly. And that's a personal thing, maybe, but still. Da, 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 da. Matt Donato of What to Watch says Glass Onion is a biting satire about billionaire smoke and mirrors that sacrifices some of the whodunit suspense to let Benoit Blanc lay into the moronic upper crust of society. I mean, yeah, I agree about the satire stuff, but I don't think the suspense is sacrificed at all. I think there's plenty of great suspense. I think that's very much the case. But let's see here. Let me see if I can see any audience reviews on here. Okay, Andrew S. says a fun murder mystery whodunit, not exactly on par with the first film, but still great. I disagree. I think it's better than the first film. But still, I mean, it's still a very positive review. John F. says it was an enjoyable murder mystery that you could solve with the characters. Yes, unlike the first one. I think you could solve it with the characters with the first one. The characters were much funnier and more interesting, and the setting was good. I mean, I thought they were funny and interesting in the first one, but again, I did like them more in this one, to be fair. Scott B just says clever and witty with excellent characters. Loved it. Simple to the point. Penwell K says the best murder mystery out right now. The twists are unpredictable with a satisfying ending. A masterpiece that leaves you speechless. And they're only unpredictable because you aren't putting everything together as you're watching. But once you realize how everything fits together, it's like it was all there. I could have seen, if I would have just seen how that could have all connected, I would have solved this myself. And that, in my opinion, is the best part of any murder mystery. When you find out what happened and you realize everything has been there this entire time. Everything was right in front of my face. If I had only seen it, I would have known what was going to happen. That feeling of discovery with that is so strong. That's how you do a murder mystery. And some of like the best Detective Conan episodes, some of the best Sherlock Holmes stories, it's like that's what they have in common. You get to the end, you find out how everything was done, what everything was done. One of my favorite murder mysteries in history, just mysteries in general, I guess you could say, is The Hound of the Baskervilles. Not just my favorite Sherlock Holmes story, but one of my favorite pieces of literature, period. Without question. I absolutely adore that story. I've seen multiple, like, movie renditions of it or show renditions. I've read it multiple times. I adore it. And it gives you the same feeling. Everything is there. Everything you could guess. There's some things that it's like, okay, it doesn't really give you that as much as other stuff, but it's like you could figure pretty much all of it out from the start if you paid attention to every little detail. If you were like Sherlock Holmes, the smallest details are sometimes the most important. Everything is there. And that is what makes this movie so brilliant. Along with, again, the amazing directing, the phenomenal cast and acting. The soundtrack was great. Just a wonderful soundtrack. A great blend of both drama and comedy. There was some really good comedy in this, too. The characters were so well done. Yeah, it was definitely a satire. It definitely satirized a lot about billionaires and tech moguls and, social media influencers and shit. It's like Elon Musk would watch this film and hate it because it would be calling him the fuck out. He's an idiot. He's an absolute idiot who takes credit for other people's shit. He's not a founder of Tesla. He bought the company and made them and forced them to call him a founder. That's literally how it went. He's been actively making Twitter worse, like legitimately worse. His ideas and policies make no sense. He doesn't even know at all where he stands on anything. He's an absolute dumbass. He's an absolute dumbass. This movie is calling out people like him. And I love that. Because, hey, fuck them billionaires. Fuck them rich billionaires, them tech moguls, them just ridiculous, stupid right-wing influencers. Fuck all of them. They're dumbasses. And that's what this movie, like, is satirizing with that. Which the first movie kind of did, too, with, like, the family being, you know, a wealthy family and being, you know, terrible pieces of shit. That definitely seems to be a theme with these Benoit Blanc mysteries. Now, I also want to check one more thing in regards to this. So let me go back to the wiki page on this. It said Rian Johnson had multiple plans out before he even made the first film. So let me see what this says about a sequel. Netflix holds the film rights to at least one more, so we're most likely going to get a third one. It's at least going to round out a trilogy. In September of 2022, Johnson confirmed his intention to make more. So Rian Johnson wants to make more of these. And later that month, Craig and Johnson both separately stated that they will continue making additional films, so long as they're both involved together. Which, yeah, I mean, you have to have those two. Like, Benoit Blanc is the mainstay detective, and Rian Johnson is, you know, the director who makes them successful and good. In November of 2022, just last month, Johnson said that he was preparing to work on writing the third film. Okay, so they're starting to work on it. They're starting to get underway, and I believe the first one came out in 2019. So that was 3 years ago. Yeah, 2019. So we might get the next one in 2025, maybe 2026. Either 2025 or 2026, I would say, it is most likely for when the next one would come out. But if they continue on this trend, and if it's as good with as great of a cast, as great of a story, as great of a mystery, it's like this could be one of the best film trilogies in cinema in a long ass time. And obviously it's all subjective. As always, all opinion, all subjective. But both of these movies seem to be doing extremely well. Both of them have received some really high acclaim. So, wow, excuse me. So, it's not just me who's really hyped about these films. They are pretty universally loved. But, either way, that's where we're going to leave off for today. I would love to hear your thoughts on this, though. So tell me in the comments below, what did you think of Glass Onion, a Knives Out mystery? Did you love it just as much as I did, or even just as much as the first film? Or did you think it was just a little not as good as the first film, but still really, really up there? Or did you somehow, inconceivably, not like it? Which is fine. It's all opinion. But still, I would love to hear your opinions. I would love to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments below. And again, I'm going to really think about it before I try to place it on my list. Obviously, either at the end of the year or beginning of next year, I'll be making a list of all the movies I've watched this year. And which ones were the best for me and which ones... I don't know if I'm going to make a worst of list. Probably not. I might mention my least favorite movie I've seen this year in that video. But I probably won't actually make a list for that. But I'll definitely make one for my favorite movies of the year. That's without question. Hell, I might even make two. I might make one for like movies that actually came out this year and movies that are older, but I still saw for the first time this year. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. But like I said, tell me your thoughts down in the comments below. And for now, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.